So I heard a strong rumor that they're taking slavery out of Dark Sun. I'm like, Dark Sun is a big basis in the oppression side of Dark Sun is slavery. It's actually deep into the lore of what Dark Sun is. It's a place layered with oppression. If you want to look at dictators, powerful dictators, overwhelming dictators, uh, racism, bigotry of all sorts, slavery. It's an oppression warehouse, and the idea is what happens in a world where all this oppression is upon you. How do you survive in it, and how do you succeed while surviving? And it's a struggle fest. That's what Dark Sun is. It's a struggle fest to succeed beyond where you're at. That's just, look, that's going to be the aim of all going in to any D&D game. We know this. This is basic. There's no way they were going to change that going into Dark Sun. So what's Dark Sun? Dark Sun is like it's it's like putting D&D on very hard, like extremely hard mode, and just going there is potential oppression and other things you find in other places in D&D, and it's all meant to play the challenges, the bad. That's why you're sort of the good, or you're more like a mix of good and neutral versus evil. Evil is somewhat represented not just by monsters, but by the evil rulers, the evil this, and yes, a lot of that is going to be based in things we call bigotry. Right, like dictators ruling over and giving favoritism to certain people. It's going to be like racism. There's going to be sexism. These are common things that happen with twisted mindsets. Right, so it's not a surprise that they'll show up in Dark Sun and Conan, slavery. And if you study history, slavery doesn't like just start where it's like one race enslaving another race. It just starts where people are enslaving their own people. So if you're a nerd in this hobby and you study the history and you study what slavery is, it creates a lot of weird heroes, interesting people throughout life that you study and what they went through. And if you want to create a world where characters like that can exist, these brave, struggling people that said things, that did this, they say it under conditions of extreme oppression. They're brave under conditions of extreme oppression. They're interesting under conditions of extreme oppression. And you realize the oppression helps create the living on the edge, the heroic side to some people. So what do? We give the bigotry a place in the world. Right? And when evil comes, it brings a lot of these expected things with it: slavery, oppression of every sort you could imagine. Makes it hard for you to get into a place because you might get rejected because of who you are. But we also know that it's none of this inspires people to go and become wicked in the process. That's what you learn with D&D. That's why the whole satanic panic thing ended up being foolish. It is a game, and people don't get confused. Nobody watches Conan and becomes like I want to be a slave master afterwards. It's the same thing with Dark Sun. I've never heard of anybody being inspired by anything other than understanding that their characters are fighting against oppression of all kinds. And that it makes sense because this is the way evil and wickedness would be presented that we know of. It's not like there's 50 million ways to do this. There's only so many different ways, and if we're talking about human mindsets, this is going to be the outcome. Power, going after the most common layers of things are going to lead to censoring people, holding people down, enslaving people, controlling people. It's all about some form of control, right? And everybody You got to deal with that when people want to aim a little higher than they should. Control of other people, be it through hate, laws, right, violence. It's control, and you'll see in places where there's a lot of power and there's fighting over that, uh, because control will become a big issue. And it naturally plays itself out in a place like Dark Sun. Dark Sun is built off being this powerful gimmick where people are fighting over power. So what happens? Well, it gets to the point where all the decent people are just offed. And then even out of the wicked ones, the ones who don't want to totally destroy everything are the ones that end up somewhat. It's like, imagine you're the evil guy, but you're not as bad as the other evil guys. That's where we're at with Dark Sun. Dark Sun is like, it's evil. There's evil leaders. But at least in some cases, you can go shopping and breathe and live where they run the show. So it's a weird story, but it's in a sort of insane asylum. And it's a bit of a Mad Max. Dark Sun is a Mad Max, but you don't get this Mad Max crazed world unless you have this level of oppression, slavery, stuff like this. This is what gets you to the mindset, to the place, to the people behaving a certain way, what they're fighting, what they're resisting. In a world where none of this is happening, you don't need these interesting characters to arrive that are brave, out there, outgoing. They want to arrive in the same way. So if you want characters that you see in old stories, when you look back, what you'll find is a lot of oppression and other weird things that make them have to overcome their own self and become these people that you see. So if you got rid of slavery from Dark Sun, you would be castrating the entire setting, the entire gimmick. I mean, watering down wouldn't be a fair way of describing it. Like you're absolutely taking a wrecking ball to Dark Sun. Dark Sun, the one thing you can't mess with Dark Sun is the oppression, the evilness, the slavery, the tyrants. You've got to leave that alone. That is what makes Dark Sun the insane asylum that it is. It's hard to explain like what created that feeling, because there's so much, like say Dark Sun. You go play it, someone DMs it well, and you have this unique, harsh experience. But it is unique. Like, just say in a good game of it where you dive in. I say anytime you give something a chance. But say you dive into Dark Sun and you really dive in. You get into flow. There is a oppressive, constant feel and reminder going on in Dark Sun. Like, you'll constantly feel a bit of pressure playing in Dark Sun. And that isn't because of the threat of attacks outside of where you're at. It's not what you think. The pressure comes from the fact that the oppression is so overwhelming. The idea of fighting back against the oppression seems almost like a waste of time. It's so much of it that you sort of look at it like, how do I survive until tomorrow? And Dark Sun wants you to feel that, because that is the state people are in. Dark Sun is like end of times type of feel. Nobody cares anymore. Oppression is not just, it's an issue, it's established. It is at the point of verbally not even talked against. Like, people barely go on, but like they're slave tribes. They acknowledge themselves as that. They're not like sitting there worried about their feelings or being offended. They're at a point in time where their oppression is secondary to their basic survival. No point in crying about oppression when you need to worry about living to get to the next day, the next week. And you got to think of Dark Sun. That's sort of the reality for a lot of people. Is I got to make sure I'm here next week. What about next year? What security can I create? What situation can I achieve? In a world like Dark Sun, people just do this instinctively in life. They look for a level of security of the future they see ahead of them. Like, where can they go and focus on other important things? Well, that's you call it security. You're constantly looking for security. Dark Sun is going to play on that basic human premise of you are constantly looking for, how do I get by tomorrow? But the idea, again, is the oppression, the negativity is so overwhelming that it's almost impossible to get that security, even though you'll struggle to look for it anyway. And there's elements all within that set up that feel, that state of overwhelming oppression. And when you take a piece out of that, the feel and the experience, what Dark Sun intends for you, can go with the smallest piece that you're taking out. Because I've seen it now so many times that we can't say we understand human psychology that well. I could give you a thing where there's one minor thing over here people are doing, and we don't know why exactly that thing causes the stress. If I take that one thing out, but you'll line it up to thinking everything else is going to bother you. Nope. I take the one thing out, and then that thing that you complain about all the time, you can stop. You can end up not feeling that way, like the need to be angry about it anymore, because there's like a little piece in there. So you got to think of Dark Sun like that. Dark Sun is a sensitive. Because I played Dark Sun quite a bit and went through multiple campaigns with it and had multiple experiences with this setting overall. And there is a similarity to each experience I can say I had, because if you deliver Dark Sun as it should be, overwhelming oppression, you get the survival gimmick, right? Yes, same old G. Yeah, the Dark Sun is fucking beautiful. And taking slavery out of it's just so sad to hear that that's the big rumor, that they're removing it. It's not about promoting it, but some stories, I hate to say it, because the oppression sometimes makes the characters. The holding down makes the pressure where the hero rises up or whatever. But there's a piece of that plays in to why the world is the way it is and why the interesting character you like in the story is the way they are. It's not a promotion of it. It is something causing an effect. So I look at that stuff in that way, is it brings an effect to a feeling, to a setting, to a story. Oh yeah. Like, I don't drill on about that deeply on here, but like I said the other day, it's hard to get away from that and from that talk when you're looking at certain things. You can't look at the potential removal of slavery and go, if they are considering doing that, we know where that comes from. We know the root of the problem.